Welcome to The Forgotten Oath, hosted by Donald Dunn, combat veteran, author of Echoes of War, The Silent Transition of a Soldier. This show is dedicated to every man and woman who raised their right hand and swore to defend this nation. But too often, after that service, the promises made by the government are forgotten. Here, we expose the truth behind the headlines, cut through the political noise, and hold leadership accountable for the treatment of our veterans and service members. No politics, no spin, just the hard conversations that need to be had. This is The Forgotten Oath.
Hey, welcome everybody to The Forgotten Oath. I'm your host, Donald Dunn. Today's, not a great topic, man. I'm just going to be honest. It really irritates the hell out of me when I see veterans getting preyed upon. And today's episode is exactly that. It discusses and talks about companies out there that are targeting our veterans. And I'm going to show you a few, and I'm not even afraid to mention them by name. So let's dig right into it. We'll start out with our sponsor. This show is brought to you by Veteran Voice Radio. Veteran Voice Radio is a nonprofit C3 that does not scam or target veterans, helping veterans use music as therapy and pursuing music careers. Reach out to them at veteranvoiceradio.com. All right, so let's get into the topic for today. Today's topic is a discussion about companies, and I know we've all heard it, we've all seen it, that claim to be there for our troops. Now, we've all heard about the Wounded Warrior fiasco that happened, and that company has, for the most part, turned themselves around, replacing key people in the company, and they're doing what they say they're going to do. However, let's talk about probably the largest veteran company out there, followed up by the second largest that is following right into their footsteps. Let's talk about USAA. How many people have ever actually dug into USAA and what they do and what they say they do versus current times? So I was with USAA pretty much my whole military career, a little over 20 years of time with them. And USAA was a great company when they started. They have changed and became more of a corporation for themselves, still using the veteran name and the veteran tags as we are only here for the veterans and their family members. And that is true. That is what you have to be with them. That doesn't mean they are here with you. That just means you are their target audience. That's what it means. So we've got a few reviews, right, that companies get, and we all know on the internet, most reviews are negative. People very rarely leave a positive review. They out of anger, they use their reviews, but you can go and check the reviews for yourself. But kind of bringing these down, there's been some reviews and complaints with the BB delayed payroll deposits, denied claims, fraud cases coming up to 9,100 for one veteran and 14,000 for another one, where USAA seen and verified the transactions and allowed the money to leave the account. And then when it turned out to be fraud, they just blamed the person that had the account. Now, again, I don't know the whole details. That's USAA and their customers. But obviously, the customers did not feel that they had done anything wrong or authorized any kind of transaction. And it kind of goes without saying, if that is the case, if that is standard practice for a company, normally you would see several complaints, lawsuits, or whatever. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you go on to Google and you Google their reviews, you're going to see there is a lot of the same thing being said over and over. Failed to honor the claim, failed to pay the claim. It goes on and on and on with that. Now, there's other stuff that they do pay. No issue. If you need your car towed, you're out of gas or car lock, no issue. You'll get that all day long. But the moment you have a house claim, well, that becomes a different story. And that's where the majority of their negative comments come from. I can vouch that I personally had a claim with USAA. It was the only claim I've ever had in the 20 some years that I've had with my house. And it was something as simple as the roof shingles. It came off. By the time they got done, they depreciated the roof all the way down to $2,500 and said that the whole roof needs to be replaced. Handed me a check for $2,500 and then dropped me. And that is my experience with them after being a member for over 20 years. Not a big deal. I find another insurance company. I don't want to stick around for my house to catch on fire. And next thing I know, I am not getting my house rebuilt. I mean, would that ever happen, actually? Let's say your house caught on fire. You go to get your house fixed, repaired, rebuilt, whatever the case may be, only to find out that USAA had waved their magic wand and came up with this mathematical equation that says you're going to get $150,000, rebuild your whole home. And the cost for rebuilding comes out to being more like $330,000. You were insured for $330,000, but they just don't want to pay that amount. I mean, would that ever happen? It seems kind of far-fetched, right? I mean, this is a company that is massive in size. I mean, USAA has NASCAR sponsors. They are all over the TV with advertisements. I mean, Gronk has been trying to become a member for years, and he still hasn't done it. So, but I bring this up for a reason, right? So I'm not just rambling. There is a point to this, and I'm going to bring this up for you guys that are listening to the audio. I'll summarize this little article that I'm bringing up, right? So USAA, right, is being sued. We all heard about the wildfires that's happened. I mean, they happen every year, but this particular year, 2025, has already had wildfires, and there's been a lawsuit that's started in June of 2025, and it's mostly because of 9 people whose property was damaged during the wildfires. Now they're not at fault. They didn't start these fires. Their house just happened to be in the path of a massive fire, right? The examples from the lawsuit comes out with one couple was insured at 342 square feet, while local rebuilding costs were $850 to $1,000 square foot, leaving them over $1 million short from getting repaired. Another homeowner received coverage based on $538 square foot, also far below the real cost, right? So USAA decides, okay, we're going to respond to this, and we're going to fix it. So USAA claims to have paid over $1.4 billion in wildfire claims to 90% of the affected members. They maintain their teams responded promptly and that the company is reviewing the lawsuit claims. This is not the first time USAA has faced scrutiny for underinsurance. Regulators previously forced them to issue $4.5 million in payouts after earlier wildfires. Now, that's a whole separate situation. That's another case where they did the exact same thing as what they did this time. And they probably felt like the additional payouts is going to be cheaper than what they would actually have to pay out. And so they're going that route to see if they get sued and potentially fight it and get it paid for as low as they possibly can. I mean, that is what insurance companies do. They're out to pay the least amount and then raise your income or raise your rates to the highest amount. Now, that $2,500 rate I have had, a $2,500 claim that I got paid, has caused my homeowner's insurance to almost double from other companies. So just to give you an idea that the amount of money that USAA paid out will now be paid out every year for the next 3 to 5 years until that claim is gone. Tell me that's not kind of shady to begin with, right? Yeah, we all know. So we now have a company that has a track record of paying out under the amount that they were being paid for in their yearly premiums. Now, again, most of these claims do come from homes. It's not as much on the auto side, but on the home side, they absolutely are false representing themselves as there for the veterans, right? Now, we're talking about USAA, but there is other companies out there that are in this same category, right? So fastly approaching, you're starting to see the same comments about Navy Federal Credit Union. There's tons of other companies like for-profit colleges that are literally targeting veterans because they have a GI Bill, and they're raping those benefits and leaving you with a worthless degree. To give you an example, University of Phoenix, ITT Tech, Corinthian colleges, those are just to name a few, right? Now, one of them even has branding built for warriors, flexible for deployments. Okay, we all know neither one of those is true. They're not built for warriors. They're built for money and for profit. They're not a nonprofit. So the company was built to make money, and they'll do that at any cost, primarily at any of your cost. So you're going to pay for it. You're not going to get what you need. You might think you are, but you're not when it comes time to demonstrate your degree that you would need in the civilian world, right? Insurance sales firms, American Home Life, Globe Life, these are all highly targeting veterans and claiming that they are taking care of the veterans. How about some of those lending places, right? You can't go outside any military base without seeing a pawn shop, a check cashing place, and a Omni Financial. They are everywhere, right? Well, they are also extremely predatory. They're high interest loans. They're going to approve you for the highest rate they can get, and not based off necessarily your credit, but to determine whether or not you're going to say no. How desperate are you to get this loan? You're 38% desperate? Not a problem. We got you. Here for you. And there's more. I know you could go on with this list, and the episode would be 2 hours long. But it is all truth that I am not afraid to say. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of these companies out here that are here for the veterans, right? But we're going to go back to a program that USAA has. Okay, for you guys who didn't know, USAA was started by officers. It was a for-officer organization, and it was started by officers. And so nothing wrong with that, right? Officers are veterans as well. And that's great. And I think a lot of it is where that has changed, where that mentality has worn off after you've been away from the building and the founding for so long. Different CEOs and so forth come in, and they're all trying to make a name and trying to build the company the highest that they can, right? But there's a program out there that a lot of enlisted doesn't know, and I'm going to expose this. And that program is called the USAA Career Starter Loan. So this loan is to help you get started in your military career, designed to help you get a house, designed to help you get a car, whatever you need to start your career. The loan is a unsecured loan, meaning there's no collateral. They do pull a credit report. However, it's highly in your favor as an officer that you will be approved. Now, again, this is for not necessarily for officers that went from enlisted to an officer. This is for cadets that have just came out of officer cadet school, right? So there is some requirements, and I'm not sure why they do it that way, but they do. So let's say you get approved, and your loan is you can borrow up to $35,000 ROTC, and that's for academy graduates, is up to $35,000. ROTC and OCS candidates are eligible for up to $25,000. So the only thing that's separating here is how you became an officer, right? ROTC, OCS, academy graduates. Okay, we're helping out. I mean, these interest rates are insane. If you're an academy graduate, you can get that $35,000 at 0.75%. That is less than 1% is what you're going to pay for that loan. ROTC and OCS candidates are eligible at a 2.99%. Okay, so almost 3%. Still not a bad for an unsecured loan. That's still not bad in today's terms. Very good. You get up to 5 years to pay it back, and your first payment, this is nice, is deferred for 6 months. So you got 6 whole months to come up with your first payment at 0.75% APR, which is damn good. So they're doing great things for veterans, right? That's what they claim, veterans, and for our military. So what about the enlisted career startup loans? Let's get into that, right? Let me see where does that talk about the NCO or enlisted startup? Oh, that's right. They don't have one of those. It's only for officers. There's no enlisted loan. However, that doesn't mean they won't lend you money. Okay. If you are a private and your credit gets approved after being scrutinized, the best case scenario is you can get a personal loan from $1,000 to $100,000 with APRs between 10% and 18%. Okay. So hundreds of percents higher for academies. And what is that? 4 times higher, 10 times higher for over 10 times higher for academy grads and 3.5% or so, 3.5 times higher for ROTC guys. Okay. And that's if you get their best deal at 10%. That's not if you get their 18%. Those percentages come out at 10%. So yes, and for you math heads out there, maybe my numbers aren't exactly right for how many times higher, but that you get the point. The point is that they are taking and not really being equal, right? What is really realistically, what is the difference between a private and a lieutenant? I'll wait. Yep, that's what I thought. Not much, right? One has a degree. Okay. One does not, or does, maybe. If they did, they'd come in as an E4. One has academy training, ROTC training. So, I mean, they get some schooling about the military. So they are kind of getting some exposure to those kind of lives and the rules and regulations. So, I guess theoretically, the 23-year-old, 22-year-old West Point grad is maybe a little bit more mature or has a better heads up of what's going on. All right. But what is it that we are going to do is we're going to give the people that make about $1,300 less a loan at an interest rate of a lot more. So the person that makes $1,300 more gets a 0.75% interest rate with pretty much a guarantee that, I mean, that's not a starting point. That's if it's approved, you get a 0.75. That's the qualifying, and be able to have a pulled credit report. Okay. If you make $1,300 less and you are a private a month, you get a high interest rate and a scrutinized credit check. And I can almost guarantee you the amount of people that even get to 10% is extremely low, especially at that stage as a private, right? When I had USAA, they didn't require deposits, and they changed that policy for a few reasons. They changed it because too many people were signing up, getting insurance, getting the ID card, and then not renewing or making their next monthly payment. And so they started asking for a deposit. And it is absolutely insane the way you get treated with that company right now. Just absolutely insane. I guarantee you there's a lot of people out there that's had good experiences. But have you ever had okay, I need you experience? I mean, maybe your car got a fender bender and they fixed it. Yeah, they did mine too. I was rear-ended by a semi-truck and wasn't at a high speed or anything. They just did some damage to the tailgate and the back and so forth. And that trucking company evidently didn't have valid insurance. Now, I had full coverage, but again, they didn't even go after that company. They raised my rate the following year and took care of it under uninsured motorist. So again, taking care of that veteran, we got you. We got your 6. It might be at 3 or 4. but we're not going to be directly behind your 6. But we'll protect you from a 2 and a 4 off to the side. So I just want to make people aware, right? As of 2023, $538 billion has been estimated as going after veteran family members with scams. And that's not all businesses that are doing that. That's, con artists and online scams and schemes and so forth, right? You have to be vigilant and do your research. When looking at reviews, look and see how many of the reviews have the same thing, right? They say the same thing over and over. If you're ordering a product off Amazon and you look at the reviews and the first 20 all say the same thing, missing parts when I received it, well, it doesn't sound like that's the unnormal. That sounds more like the normal, right? And you shouldn't be astonished when you receive your item and it doesn't have all the pieces. 20 people said the exact same thing. They don't know each other. They didn't have this brilliant idea to go after this company. They may have exaggerated the stress or the anger or whatever just because they were mad. But they obviously had that situation happen. So when you're out there doing your research, do that same thing. Look at it, evaluate it. Excuse me, allergies. They're just kicking my butt. But they are, people are out there saying what's happening to them. And you can water down the anger, but it doesn't change the scenario. Obviously, the claim wasn't paid. And now you have 2 lawsuits to gauge a company by. So I think I've made the point that if you're looking at colleges, understand that you don't have to settle. And your GI Bill is your earned benefit. It doesn't matter that it's not your dollar. It is your dollars that are going to them out of your benefits that you earned. And what you get for that benefit should be worth what the benefit was. It is insane to use up your GI Bill and not have a degree that is recognized from a reputable company. So be vigilant. Don't be a statistic. If you need help, VA has resources on finances. They have listings for known scams and stuff that's happening. Make sure that you guys are out there. Leave your reviews, good or bad. It doesn't always have to be bad, but leave your reviews. And if you, I'd like to know in a comment how many people out there have actually had this issue. So leave it down in the comments. You don't have to mention the company's name if you don't want, but just let me know how many people have felt like they were targeted by a company because they were veteran or related to a veteran or a benefit that was through a government military agency. That's it for today's show. I hope you got something out of it. And again, don't worry about whether you're afraid to say something or speak up. I'm going to do it for you. So that's it for today. We'll see y'all next time on The Forgotten Oath.
Thanks for joining me on The Forgotten Oath. If you believe these conversations matter, if you believe our veterans deserve better, help us grow this mission. Hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share this episode with others who care. Every subscriber helps amplify the voices of those who served. Until next time, stay strong, stay vigilant, and never forget the oath.